It was on a quiet Sunday morning, just as the first hymn filled the air, that Pastor Kofi's word began to unravel. As he stood before his congregation, his voice shaking, he could feel the weight of his secret pressing down on him. The people in the pews looked up at him with trust in their eyes, but he knew that by the end of the day, that trust would be shattered forever. Once upon a time, in a small village called Nsuom, there lived a man named Pastor Kofi. He was well respected by everyone in the village. Pastor Kofi was the leader of the largest church in Nsuom, and the villagers looked up to him as a man of God. His church was a simple building made of red clay and thatched roof, but every Sunday, it was filled with people eager to hear his sermons. Pastor Kofi was known for his kindness. He helped the sick, prayed for the troubled, and gave hope to the hopeless. The children loved him because he always had a sweet treat for them after church. The elders respected him because he listened to their stories and gave them wise advice. For many years, life in Nsuom was peaceful and happy. But Pastor Kofi had a secret that was slowly eating away at him. It all started one rainy night when a young woman named Abena came to his house. Abena was a beautiful girl, known for her bright smile and kind heart. She had come to the village a few months earlier, looking for work, and Pastor Kofi had given her a job as the church secretary. Abena admired Pastor Kofi greatly. She saw him as a father figure and often came to him for advice. But on that rainy night, something changed. Abena was drenched from the rain, and Pastor Kofi invited her inside to dry off. As they talked, the conversation became more personal. Abena shared her struggles, and Pastor Kofi comforted her. But what started as an innocent conversation soon turned into something more. Pastor Kofi crossed a line that night. He gave in to a temptation that he had always preached against. As the rain poured outside, the two of them committed a sin that would have serious consequences. The next morning, Pastor Kofi woke up with a heavy heart. He knew what he had done was wrong, but he convinced himself that it was just a moment of weakness. Weeks went by, and Pastor Kofi tried to carry on as usual. He continued to preach, pray, and help the villagers. But inside, he was tormented by guilt. Abena, too, was troubled. She avoided Pastor Kofi as much as she could, but the secret weighed heavily on her. One day, during a Sunday service, Pastor Kofi noticed that Abena was not in her usual seat. He felt a pang of worry. After the service, he went to her house to check on her. When he arrived, he found her crying. Abena confessed that she was pregnant, and the baby was his. Pastor Kofi felt the ground shift beneath him. He knew that his sin had caught up with him. Fear gripped Pastor Kofi's heart. He begged Abena to keep the secret, but she refused. She could not bear the burden alone anymore. Abena decided that she would leave the village and start a new life somewhere else. She packed her belongings and left without telling anyone where she was going. But secrets have a way of coming out, no matter how hard you try to hide them. A few months later, rumors started to spread in the village. People noticed that Abena was gone, and they began to talk. The gossip grew louder, and soon everyone was talking about it. One Sunday, as Pastor Kofi stood before his congregation, a group of elders walked into the church. They demanded that he tell the truth. The church was silent as Pastor Kofi stood there, trembling. He knew that this was the moment he had feared. With tears in his eyes, Pastor Kofi confessed to his sin. He told the congregation about that rainy night and how he had failed them. The villagers were shocked. Some cried, others were angry, but most of all, they were disappointed. The man they had trusted, the man they had looked up to, had betrayed them. The news of the scandal spread like wildfire. People from neighboring villages came to Nsuom to hear about what had happened. The church was divided. Some wanted to forgive Pastor Kofi, while others demanded that he be removed from the church. Pastor Kofi knew that he could no longer lead the church. He decided to leave the village and never return. He packed his bags and left in the middle of the night, leaving behind the village he had once loved and the people who had once loved him. As for Abena, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She moved to a distant village where no one knew her past. She raised her son with love and care, but she never forgot the mistake that changed her life forever. The church in Nsuom eventually found a new pastor, and life slowly returned to normal. But the memory of the scandal remained. The villagers learned a hard lesson that year: even the most trusted people can fall, and no one is above temptation. The story of Pastor Kofi and Abena became a cautionary tale, passed down from generation to generation. It was a reminder that we must all be careful of the choices we make, because those choices can have consequences that last a lifetime. And so, the village of Nsuom moved on, but the shadow of the past lingered, a silent reminder of the scandal that shocked the nation.